Hello, my name is Dr. La-Juan Bradford, and I'm the Director of Academic Support where I work. Every college and university will have an office to provide academic accommodations for students with disabilities. Some offices are called Disability Resource Center, while other offices might be called the Accommodations Office, ADA Office, Access Center, Student Support Services. You get the idea. These offices will provide academic accommodations based on the severity of the disability and the strength of the documentation provided. Some universities will accept high school documentation, such as an IEP or 504 plan, but not all colleges will accept these. In K through 12, the law is to support students with disabilities. That law is called IDEA, Individuals with Disabilities Education Act. This law provides many accommodations and even some modifications to ensure students will graduate. This law is only for K through 12 though, and this law allows parents to be in charge of the plan. In college, the law changes from IDEA to ADA, Americans with Disabilities Act. ADA, the law states that accommodations will be provided and that accommodations will be reasonable. ADA ensures everyone has access to education, but it's up to the student to take ownership of the accommodation plan. Students must make an appointment with the director of the Disability Services Office, and the student is also responsible to share the accommodation plan with each professor. While each college is different, the disability is not usually shared with the instructors, just the accommodation plan. To receive appropriate accommodations, documentation is necessary. If a college does accept high school documentation, accommodations tend to be minimal. When a student brings a high school IEP, it usually does not include the testing information, and most of the time it only provides a diagnosis and accommodations provided in high school based on the IDEA law. Since testing is very expensive sometimes, some colleges will honor the high school documentations, but understand the accommodations are minimal. These accommodations tend to be a quiet testing space and time and a half on tests and quizzes. For a quiet testing space, some universities will have a testing room for students to use. Other colleges might just have a quiet, empty space. Now, for that time and a half, this means the regular time plus half of that time. So, for example, if a test is an hour, the student will have an extra 30 minutes. If a quiz is 10 minutes, the student will have an extra 5 minutes. Extended time, time and a half for timed test, does not include take-home tests. If a student needs other accommodations, such as a test reader or someone to write answers, or the use of a computer to type answers for an essay test, or the student does not need spelling to be counted as part of the grade, well, a high school IEP will not be enough for those accommodations. What's needed is a full adult psychological evaluation. The full adult psychological evaluation will show the specific disability or learning difference, and that evaluation will also state all the necessary academic accommodations. Unfortunately, a full adult psychological evaluation is rather expensive and few insurance plans even cover it. This is why some colleges will honor high school documentation again at a minimal accommodation. Let's say you have a full adult psychological evaluation and the psychiatrist provided a long list of accommodations. Do understand, some accommodations may need to be negotiated with the Director of Disability Services. For example, A negotiated accommodation would be for recording lectures. If a student has documentation that supports the request to record lectures, the university may require the student to erase the recorded lecture a week or two after the initial recording date. At my university, students are required to sign a form agreeing they will delete the recorded lectures. The reason is to protect the professor. Unfortunately, people can twist and change recordings and post them on social media that are just not accurate. So requiring students to delete recordings helps the professor to teach without feeling inhibited. Another accommodation that is usually negotiated is to have a copy of professor's notes. Now, some professors put all their notes, all their PowerPoint slides on the learning platform that their school uses. However, some professors do not want to share their lectures, and they don't have to. It's theirs. Therefore, a student will get a copy of another student's notes as their accommodation. Another example of accommodation that is usually negotiated is submitting late work. Colleges, they move quickly in either semesters or quarters, and it's hard to get double time on assignments because it's moving so fast. The usual accommodation for submitting work late is 1, maybe 2 days past the due date. The good news is that professors have course schedules that students will receive at the beginning of the semester. This allows the student to plan their time to be able to submit assignments at the due date. Some students don't have a learning disability, they have a health impairment. To receive accommodations for physical challenges, health impairments, a thorough letter from your physician with a list of reasonable accommodations should be sufficient. Accommodations for people with physical and health limitations will vary. For example, an accommodation for students with health challenges might include modified attendance. Some universities will offer 1.5 of the attendance policy. Let me explain this. If a professor's attendance requirement states that the 4th absence of class is a letter grade drop, well, that student will have 1.5 of 4. So 4 absences plus half of that, they would get 6 absences before the letter grade drops. Just a gentle reminder, ADA states that accommodations must be reasonable. College students will not be successful if they miss a great deal of class. I usually tell students that once they've missed 20% of the semester, they might need to consider withdrawing from a course or two. It all depends on the class and the course requirements, and an honest and frank conversation with the professors will be helpful. Another request that needs to be negotiated is Zoom. Most schools are fully back face-to-face, and research is showing us students need to learn face-to-face in the classroom. Many schools are no longer allowing students to join by Zoom. So be sure to discuss this ahead of time with the Director of Disability Services. For students with emotional challenges such as anxiety, depression, bipolar disorder, other mental health issues, a thorough letter from your doctor, therapist, or psychologist should be sufficient. Accommodations for mental health tend to be the same accommodations for students with health impairments. Again, all accommodation requests must be reasonable for the student's education and for the university to be able to serve. The last thing I want to discuss with you is the importance of a Christian higher education. Professors and staff who work at Christian colleges and universities, we choose to work at a Christian institution because we want to pour into the lives of young adults. My undergraduate degree is from a Christian college, and when I was attending a Christian college, it kept me centered on Christ as I learned my content and major, and now I'm an employee at a Christian university because I believe keeping Christ in the center of all areas of my life, including education, is priceless. At the end of every intake meeting I have with my students with disabilities, I end the meeting with prayer. During my weekly meetings with my students, I have the opportunity to share Christian values and godly norms. I would not be able to do this at a public school. I highly recommend a Christian environment for college students. In closing, I hope this information about disability services was helpful, and I truly wish you all the best.